The medical profession is crumbling in response to radical transgender activists. There's good evidence that many ancient societies sacrificed children to their gods. Parents in ancient Phoenician colonies in Carthage slew their offspring prior to cremating them, hoping that the gods would hear their voices and bless them. We are rightly appalled by this, though sometimes I wonder whether we understand child sacrifice far more than we'd like to admit. I saw a video the other day featuring an American surgeon bragging that he had performed more than 3,000 double mastectomies on young women who had paid for gender reassignment. Individuals confused, one might say encouraged, by those who profit from it into believing that their adolescent emotional trials can be cured and happiness reign forever if they subject themselves to this brutal practice. And it is brutal, a process that often includes not only the aforementioned mastectomies, but other appalling surgical processes. Orchiectomy, that's castration in blunter language, the removal of the uterus, the demolition of the musculature of the forearm to make what is not a penis, but must be referred to as such. For someone purporting to be a physician to perform this on children, to me at least, seems like something worthy of a prison sentence. Whatever happened to the doctrine expressed by the ancient language as primum non nocere? First, do no harm. The Hippocratic Oath has been replaced by a delusion, a belief that can be summarized as, by blocking the puberty of children and then surgically altering them, we are only restoring what is theirs by right. A child's feelings are the final arbiters of their reproductive destiny, and any attempt to contest their gender identity risks increasing their proclivity for suicide. Lies. 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 Psychologists, those in my own personal field of medicine, have also surrendered to this groupthink. The American Psychological Association's Task Force on Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Transgender and Gender Nonconforming People insist that psychologists and other professional counselors offer trans-affirmative care. Practitioners are also asked to examine how their language, e.g., use of incorrect pronouns and names, may reinforce the gender binary in overt or subtle and unintentional ways. These guidelines first read like a manual of indoctrination, and second, like a document designed to undermine and destroy the practice of therapy itself. But at an alarming rate, these guidelines have transformed themselves into punitive laws governing what a psychologist or counselor may say and think in relation to their clients. Let me make myself perfectly clear. Speaking as a professional, whether in America, Britain, or anywhere, it is not the place of a therapist to affirm or, conversely, to deny the identity of anyone whom they admit into their care. People come to see a therapist often after long and painful deliberation because they are suffering, confused, or both. The job of that therapist is to listen, to question, and to proceed with due caution, neither providing cheap advice and thereby stealing their clients' successes or heaping failure upon them, nor assuming special knowledge of the proper outcome for a given individual. There is simply no way I would ever tell a 15-year-old adolescent that she is absolutely correct if sometimes she feels more masculine than feminine, however that feeling might emerge, and that if she feels that surgery is the answer, then recommend hormones that day. I would instead spend many weeks, even perhaps many months or years, listening to her unwrap her story, using caution as my watchword, and help her to come to some thorough and well-developed understanding of both her autobiographical history and her destiny. That is not affirmation, and neither is it denial. How could I possibly dare to do either when someone has come to me because they are mixed up and desperate, a state of twinned experience indicating a profound confusion about identity itself? I don't understand this radical postmodern definition of gender, one that rests on a person's deeply felt or inherent sense of being one sex over another, regardless of biology. Psychologically, it is indisputably the case that a non-trivial proportion of males have a feminine temperament, which essentially means that they experience higher levels of negative emotion, such as anxiety and the analogs of pain, grief, frustration, disappointment, depression, and are more agreeable, compassionate, polite than typical males. And equally true that a non-trivial proportion of females have a masculine temperament. But this does not change how, objectively, professionals should measure a person's gender. Psychologists once cared if measurement followed standard practices of validity and reliability. I cannot consent to what we are doing. I cannot abide by what have become the doctrines of my discipline. I believe that the acts of the medical professional rushing to disfigure, sterilize, and harm young people with what are clearly ill-advised, dangerous, and experimental procedures cross the line from do no harm to outright harm. Heaven help us. Truly.